Oz exclusive about a bombshell case the FBI has been investigating.
How many surgeries do you estimate you had with him?
Roughly 6 or 7.
In not a very long period of time?
No, they were all really close together.
The stories are all very similar.
He has this very easy spirit about him and always made you feel comfortable and warm and that everything was going to be okay.
They start with a simple checkup.
He made me feel comfortable with him.
And then it goes into some sort of diagnostic procedure.
First thing that he said to me was that he saw, cysts on my ovaries.
And then it progresses to some sort of small surgery.
He told me that I needed surgery to remove the cysts because, they were growing rapidly.
And then it progresses.
He had told me I had to have my ovaries removed. And I didn't, like I said again, I didn't question it. I just went in and had it done.
And it gets worse.
So all you knew when you went into the surgery was that the ovary was going to be removed, and all of a sudden he says, oh yeah, we removed your uterus too.
Yes.
How shocked were you when he said that?
I was very shocked.
He did an ultrasound, I had to sit in the waiting room, and then he called me to his office and he told me that I would be getting a hysterectomy.
And what was your reaction when he told you that?
I didn't know nothing about a hysterectomy, so I was asking questions about it to him, and what he had told me, it would stop you from having kids.
I didn't know that women form cysts and usually they go away on their own. You don't need surgery to remove them, but he was very persistent on me getting surgery to get them removed.
Although Dr. Perwaiz had a history of legal trouble and was flagged for poor judgment and performing unnecessary surgeries, he was able to get his patients' trust.
Did you find it odd that you had to do so many surgeries back to back to back?
Yeah, it was, yes. And it was hard on my body because it's like I'm young, so he's performing several surgeries. So I'm just, I questioned it, but then it was just like, okay, this is my doctor, so I need to just listen to my doctor at that time.
What did you feel when he said you had cancer?
I was scared, I cried, I was nervous, and I was so mortified. It was a scary situation for me.
Who were you and how long were you a patient of Dr. Perwaiz's?
My name is Tabitha Johnson, and I was a patient for approximately 7 years with Dr. Perwaiz. Most of my family used him as a physician, and so I just, felt more comfortable with him because my family was going to him for years. The first thing that he said to me was that he saw, cysts on my ovaries.
Did he tell you need any surgeries?
Yes, he told me that I needed surgery to remove the cysts because, they were growing rapidly, and me at that time, I didn't know that women form cysts and usually they go away on their own. You don't need surgery to remove them, but he was very persistent on me getting surgery to get them removed.
The stories are all very similar, all very heartbreaking, and they all start the same way.
I'm Dana Chisholm. I live in Chesapeake, Virginia.
When you look at Dana Chisholm, she went to him for a checkup. She was healthy as can be.
I'm really weird about going to see doctors because I don't like being touched.
Dana was actually one of the patients who was listed in the federal indictment. She actually testified against Javed Perwaiz in his trial. She also has lodged a $10 million civil lawsuit against him.
I don't think twice about asking a doctor or a dentist or someone who's supposed to have all that knowledge, questions. I just go with the flow.
Had her first appointment with him. In that same appointment, he comes to her and says, you need to get your ovaries out.
He had told me I had to have my ovaries removed. And I didn't, like I said again, I didn't question it. I just went in and had it done. After I had my surgery done, I went to my hospital. I was in the hospital room for recovery. He had told me then that he had removed my left ovary and removed my uterus while he was in there.
So all you knew when you went into the surgery was that the ovary was going to be removed, and all of a sudden he says, oh yeah, we removed your uterus too.
Yes.
How shocked were you when he said that?
I was very shocked, but I wasn't really thrown off that much because he is the doctor. And when I was growing up, I was taught you don't ask questions, you just go with the way things are.
Did he give you an explanation why the uterus had to be removed also?
He didn't give me an explanation why my ovaries had to be removed. He just removed them. He just told me they had to be removed.
You didn't consent?
To him removing my uterus, no, I did not. He took something that I did not give him permission to take.
When you look at the form that Dr. Perwaiz sent over to the hospital to justify why he was doing the surgery, the form usually lists symptoms from the patient. It said that she had lower back pain, which she didn't have, and it said that she requested to have her uterus taken out, which was not anywhere close to the truth. She did not request it.
It was 5 years after, and my sister had gotten stage 4 ovarian cancer. And as I'm over there helping her, she told me to go get checked. I looked for a doctor, called some numbers, and went to see this doctor. That was where they did the sonogram and had told me I had left ovary and I had a right ovary. And I'm like, wait, what the heck? What's going on? So that was the first time I learned that I had ovaries. It's really sad when you can't even trust your gynecologist. You can't trust anyone these days, and it's sad.
So he did a procedure on your cervix.
Yes.
Do you have a good understanding of what he did?
No, because I was under the impression that he would just be removing like cancer cells from my cervix.
Dr. Perwaiz used certain tactics to get women to have surgeries, and one of those tactics was using the word cancer.
I was under the impression that he was removing cancerous cells from my cervix. However, I later found out that he removed half of my cervix when he said I had cervical cancer.
What was that like for you when you find that out?
It was dreadful. I expressed to my family that, you know, he had diagnosed me with cervical cancer, and they were all questioning. They were like, well, if you have cervical cancer, why aren't you doing chemo? Why aren't you doing, you know? And I didn't, you know, at a young age, I'm like, I don't know, I just need surgery. My doctor's telling me I need surgery.
From 1996 until 2007, I can remember having procedures, what seems in my mind as, you know, a yearly occurrence. I never questioned anything he told me up until he suggested that I have a hysterectomy. He said I'm not going to have any more children, that it would decrease my chances of any ovarian cancer. I was a prime candidate. Up until 2 days prior to the scheduled surgery, I was not convinced that I, in fact, needed one. My gut feeling, my intuition said, I'm just not doing this to my body. I'm not ready for this yet. And he called me at home that evening. Once I had called the doctor's office, I had called the hospital, you know, to cancel it. And it was the first time throughout my relationship with him as his patient did I detect or feel a tone in his voice that was very disapproving. Like I interrupted his Saturday for, you know, a scheduled surgery. The last few years, every visit that I went to, he asked, have I given more thought to the hysterectomy?
I researched my OBGYN doctors. I'm kind of funny about doctors, so I did a lot of research and I saw he had good reviews up there, so I chose him. He saw me off and on. I didn't have any complications or anything. Everything went well.
Dracena had 6 children delivered by Dr. Perwaiz. No issues with any of the births, but her issues actually started after the births.
I was complaining about my periods being heavy, and so he sent me in. He did an ultrasound. I had to sit in the waiting room. And then he called me to his office and he told me that I would be getting a hysterectomy.
And what was your reaction when he told you that?
I didn't know nothing about a hysterectomy, so I was asking questions about it to him, and what he had told me, it would stop me from having kids. And he told me I didn't need any more kids anyway, and so I was still like, didn't really want to do it because I was like, if I get married one day, I probably want to have kids or something like that. But he said if I didn't get it, that I would be going through a lot of problems. So.
And so you decided to go ahead and do it?
Yes.
What was that like for you, making that decision to go ahead and go along with the surgery?
It was scary, because to the time when I was going to get the surgery, I was still asking him questions. I was scared to get the surgery. I kept telling him, was there any other options and stuff like that? He told me no. He said if I wanted to stop going through the pain and the heavy periods, I would have to get the hysterectomy.
Did you feel like he was pressuring you into getting this surgery?
Pretty much he was pressuring me into it.
Josheena was like many of the other patients we talked to. She had no idea that Dr. Perwaiz had past issues with unnecessary hysterectomies.
In 1982, Dr. Perwaiz, he still only had probationary privileges at Maryview Medical Center, and they terminated those privileges based on well over 10 different women that they found that he had performed mostly hysterectomies or recommended hysterectomies that were not medically necessary and contrary to the standard of care. That information was then sent to the Virginia Board of Medicine, who did their own investigation and ended up censuring him for lack of accurate medical records, as well as for lack of judgment in having a sexual relationship with one of his patients. But he still maintained his license.
Right around the same time that his privileges were revoked at Maryview, he was actually applying for privileges at Chesapeake Regional. That's when Maryview sent this letter over to Chesapeake Regional. The letter's from J. Bland Buckhart, who was the chief executive officer of Maryview, and he writes, "This is to confirm that Dr. Javed A. Perwaiz was a member of the Maryview Hospital medical and dental staff from July 1st, 1980, when his temporary privileges were originally granted pending processing of his application, through October 24th, 1983, at which time his staff membership and clinical privileges were terminated by action of the Maryview Board of Directors after receiving recommendations from appropriate medical staff committees." And even with this letter, he was still given privileges at CRMC to operate.
When people are getting paid and people are benefiting from something that they may or may not turn a blind eye to, it would have had to have benefited them as well.
Do you now question procedures that were done on you for all these years?
Absolutely. I question every single one of them. And why would I be different than anybody else that he scammed?